Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has unveiled a plan for Gaza and its future post-Hamas. As per the plan, there will be complete demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. It also envisions closing off the southern border with Egypt, as well as the complete overhaul of Gaza's civil administration. CNN has obtained a copy of the plan which Netanyahu presented to members of Israel's security cabinet last week. This is Netanyahu's way of telling both the Palestinian people and also his Western allies and backers that he indeed does have a post-war Gaza plan. But will it find many takers? Let's find out. The Netanyahu plan comes even as Israel has sent a negotiating team led by Mossad director David Barnea to Paris last week. The team was there for talks over a potential ceasefire and hostage release deal that may put an end to the 4-month-long war. But so far, there has been no breakthrough. More than 29,000 people have been killed in Gaza since this war began. The 7th of October attack by Hamas has killed over 1,200 Israelis. A number of principles have been outlined in this document, from changes on the security and civil levels, as well as a more long-term plan on who governs Gaza. The most controversial aspect of this plan includes Israel closing off Gaza's southern border with Egypt. This would give Israel complete control of all entry and exit points from the Strip. At present, Egypt controls access to and from Gaza's southern border via Rafah. It is highly unlikely that Egypt is going to give up that control. Netanyahu's plan says that Israel will cooperate as much as is possible with Egypt in coordination with the United States. It is not clear whether Israel has obtained Egypt's sign-off on this plan. There's been no immediate official reaction from the United States as well to this proposal. Netanyahu has said before that Israel will have security control over the entire area west of the Jordan River, and this includes the West Bank, Israel, as well as Gaza. The Palestinians have long sought an independent state that comprises the occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza. Israel will be responsible for realizing and overseeing the entire demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. Israel will also control all military affairs of the Strip except those that are required to maintain law and order. On the civil level, Netanyahu details an overhaul of Gaza's civil administration and education systems. Another point of contention has been the apparent cut-off of funding from Qatar to Gaza. There's been no official reaction from Qatar or any of the Gulf countries for that matter. The local entities running the civil services in Gaza will not be identified with countries or entities that support terrorism and will not receive any payment from them. While it is likely a reference to Qatar, it is not clear yet if it would also apply to the Palestinian Authority. The US President Joe Biden has previously said that he envisions a revitalized version of the Palestinian Authority that should run Gaza in the future. That's according to the Americans. But the Netanyahu plan also calls for de-radicalization in the education system, which Israel and its allies have long accused of promoting anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel. The plan also repeats that Israel will work to shut down UNRWA, which is the United Nations' main agency supporting Palestinian refugees. The document says it's going to replace it with responsible international aid agencies. Israel has accused about a dozen UNRWA employees of being directly involved in the October 7th attack. The agency employs about 13,000 people in Gaza. Finally, the plan also reiterates Israel's insistence that it will not be forced by the international community to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. Again, this is something that US President Joe Biden has publicly said as the only viable long-term solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict. This is what the document says. Israel outright rejects any international diktats regarding a permanent settlement with the Palestinians. It asserts that the recognition of a Palestinian state would be a huge reward to unprecedented terrorism. Many of the proposals are opposed by key parties. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, for example, has already rejected the idea of a buffer zone. Egypt has rejected the suggestion that Israel could control its southern border with Gaza. And the United Arab Emirates has said that without a clear roadmap towards an independent Palestinian state, it will not help foot the bill meant for Gaza's reconstruction. Also, Netanyahu's vow to eliminate UNRWA, the UN aid agency which supplies most of the international aid to Gaza, would be extremely difficult to achieve. Now, as the United Nations warns of almost all the population of Gaza at imminent risk of a famine, a ban on UNRWA would be immensely unpopular. It would also be counterproductive. There is no mention in the plan of the Palestinian Authority, which administers parts of the occupied West Bank. Netanyahu has previously rejected the idea that the PA could take control of Gaza. It is not clear whether he would accept a reconstituted version of the Palestinian Authority taking over Gaza. It is also far from clear whether this would be accepted by the Palestinians themselves, because remember, a good number of them voted for Hamas in the elections in 2006. For now, Netanyahu's priority remains destroying Hamas and returning more than 100 hostages who are still in Hamas captivity in Gaza. Getting hostage talks that are mediated by Egypt and Qatar back on track, that seems to be a key goal of the delegation that Netanyahu sent to Paris last week. The United States and others are hoping that a deal will forestall a ground operation in Rafah that could push the death toll to well above 30,000. Most observers believe that once this war is over, elections in Israel are inevitable. Netanyahu and his allies are predicted to lose. They've been trailing badly in all nationwide opinion polls. But it is far from clear that if a different leader, in this case, the leading opposition leader Benny Gantz, who's also part of the war cabinet and he's touted as the favorite to become the next Prime Minister, whether Mr. Gantz and his government will have a different vision for Gaza. All in all, life in Gaza is not going to be anywhere close to normal, even if the war were to end in the next few weeks.